Hello everyone, I'm Bruffy1322 and welcome to the first round of this 2023 Karting Championship season. This video is brought to you by Bruffy.com. This is my website where you can find all the info you need about me and my content, from a fully documented catalogue of my videos with chronological playlists to live streaming plans and much more. Go straight there with a link in the description and pinned comment. So here we go, and we qualified in 16th place, so sort of mid-pack for this first race, and I was trying to get over to the right hand side but I just couldn't. I think I do eventually, but yeah, qualifying in mid-pack, kind of in a similar position to where I qualified in that sort of the last round of last season where I was testing everything out in the last episode. But there's a lot more karts on the track this time, 35 karts as you can see in the top left, which is the maximum that they're allowed to have, so it's jam-packed full of people. So being in the mid-pack of 35 karts it's interesting, and certainly, you know, I'm having to make sure I'm defending my position quite a bit and also trying to make up places wherever I can. Now, my kart wasn't great for this first one. I could tell that I was losing speed to a lot of people, but you know, I have to be aware that I am quite rusty as well. So there comes a point, I think, towards the end of this race where I was just thinking, am I just bad? Thankfully, the second race kind of goes against that, I think, and it just took me a while to get back into it, but you know, you'll see it all as it happens. So yeah, I'm kind of, for this first lap or two, just, you know, fighting in the mid-pack as everything settles down. People are obviously, you know, trying to find the positions and where they're gonna sort of slot into the sort of general order of things, and as you can see, I'm losing quite a bit on the straights there, so that's kind of what I was up against. I actually had kart number 13 for this first race of the season, so yeah, lucky number 13 for me. My second race I had kart 37, so 1337, the latter kart was certainly more elite than the former one was, but yeah, I end up sort of making a few nice moves for position at least during this race, so again, sort of accessing what I feel like I know that I can do in terms of overtaking, trying to bring in, you know, bring some of that racecraft back a little bit and figure things out. But you know, certainly for the first couple of laps, I was a little bit rusty, you know, as you can see. One quick note on the camera, obviously you're seeing it now at 60 FPS. In the previous episode it was 4K 30 FPS, this is now 1080p 60 FPS. And even though the weather in the last one was better, which kind of made the footage look a bit nicer, I think this is definitely the way to go in terms of the smoothness. You know, the 60 FPS does look really nice, and you can't really tell that much of a difference between the 4K and the 1080p, certainly when we're at speed like this. So yeah, I think the only thing that I can improve on the camera at this point is a new helmet, which I've actually already bought at this point. So for the next round onwards, I will have a new helmet, because I think the helmet that I have that I always used to have, it's probably a little bit too loose. You know, I've had it for quite a long time now, so I've got a new one. It certainly fits a lot better, and I think the footage that you see in the next episode onwards will be about as good as it's going to get. So you know, if you can't watch it from next week onwards, then or the next episode onwards, then fair enough, I understand, but it should improve at least a little bit from this in the next episode. So yeah, I'm sort of, now that I've settled down after the first two laps, I'm thinking about where I'm gonna sort of make my way back up and make some extra positions. Obviously I made a place back there up into 19th, as I dropped down to 20th, I started 16th, and again, it's just I felt like I was able to sort of battle a little bit earlier into the race than I was in the last episode, where I was very rusty. At least I had sort of the experience of that last round of the previous season to get off the majority of the rust, and I was able to sort of get quicker and quicker up to speed, and I think that is going to just, you know, gradually improve as time goes on. I end up getting a nice little move here by sacrificing a little bit on the corner entry to get a better run and getting up the inside there to get up into 18th, so I was pretty happy about that one. That was quite a nice little move. And yeah, again, it took me sort of 2 laps to get myself settled down. I ended up losing a few positions during those 2 laps, and I think that's one of the main things that I'm going to have to improve, or at least try to get back that skill of not losing those positions in the early stages, and certainly trying to qualify better as well. But yeah, it was going relatively well at this point, and I felt like I was getting back into it and I was going to be able to make up some more positions. But then this happens, and so trying to unpack what happens there is a little bit frustrating, because obviously, as you can see, I end up losing a lot of positions. I end up dropping down to 22nd place from the 18th place that I was in. And I think basically what happened is they had a coming together, those two karts that we saw at the hairpin, and one of the guys just decides to stop and check that the other kart's okay. So that's why I ended up just having to stop myself, because there was nowhere else to go. You don't just stop in the middle of the track, so that was quite annoying, and I ended up losing out the most from that. Thankfully, I was able to again make up some places. As you saw there, I got up into 20th place, 21st place, and now I've gotten up into 20th place as well. So it's gradually coming back again. It's just a case of I could have probably been making these places a little bit further up the field. These could have been overtakes for 17th and 16th places if I hadn't have gotten caught up in that crash, unfortunately. So it's just one of those things where, again, I'm in the position that I'm in, so I'm going to try and at least try to get back some positions. That was a bit of a rough one up the inside there, but it worked nicely to get up into 19th, and I'm almost back to where I ended up, where I was when I got caught up in that incident. But then I do get done up the inside there, which was a decent little move, to be fair. Turns out he's got a significantly quicker kart, as I later find out, because he just sort of pulls away from me, and you can probably see it there already. But yeah, it was again, I'd settled down, but I needed to relearn and remember how to race, I think. And although I'd managed to do that a decent amount in the last episode, I think I was doing it more in this race as well, because I was sort of right in the weeds in the mid pack of 35 cars. So nice little overtake there, I think. Nice little cutback. I was pretty happy with that one, and there was a few nice moves during the course of this first race that, even though my positioning wasn't great, towards the back end of the top 20, I was at least able to make some nice overtakes, and I was constantly progressing. I most of the time I wasn't being overtaken very much. It was all me doing the overtaking, and I was kind of only getting overtaken if I was sort of in the wrong place at the wrong time, or it was just a sheer kart advantage. So that was something to be good at, look good upon. We're coming on to, we're on lap 10 at this point, as we've sort of cut through some highlights, and there's all sorts of nonsense going on here. I obviously spy a chance to go up the inside there, but the guy just decides to turn into me, and then they continue having their little argument, and I lose a position, but then gain a position because of all that. So again, in this mid-pack, this is the sort of thing that is always happening. You're always losing positions, gaining positions. It's frantic, and there's karts everywhere. And from this point on, I wasn't really able to, in those early stages, I got up to 18th, and I thought, okay, maybe let's get back to the sort of 16th that I qualified and see if we can go any further than that. But this was about as well as I could do. I ended up, touching him on the side there, so I made sure that he could get in front, because that wasn't reasonable. But from this point on, I was kind of always having to defend my position as well as looking forward and trying to overtake, because I've got people right behind me as well. I don't know why the guy there slowed down, but I'll take that free position. And then that ended up being as much as I could do. 18th, I wasn't able to challenge this guy in front. He drives away from me a little bit, mainly because I was having to keep an eye on what was going on behind me, in terms of there was quite a train of karts that I was trying to keep behind. I do gain a last minute position here. Again, someone either got taken out or made a mistake and then wasn't paying attention to where any other karts might have been, but I'll take that extra position again in 17th, and I was able to successfully keep the few karts that were behind me behind. So, I ended up finishing in 17th, and I qualified 16th, so only lost one position in the end, but it wasn't the greatest race. Now, the races in this video for the first round of this championship actually took place pretty much exactly 10 years after I first started doing this championship back in 2013, obviously with a massive break after 2015, as we covered in the last episode. And I've actually got some really old footage from back then from an old helmet camera before I got a GoPro in 2014. It's nowhere near good enough to sort of look back on in any great detail, but I do remember this race in particular. It was kind of in the middle-ish of the season as being one of my sort of breakthrough races, where I ended up achieving a second place in the final race, as it was back then, and got my first trophy in damp conditions. This was after sort of starting in third, getting hit down to fifth here, and then hit again pretty severely at the hairpin later on in the lap for good measure, and then having to catch up quite a bit to second and third places and then past them to get the trophy. We also used to do rolling starts back then, and we ended up we used to do 3 short races and then a longer final race where the trophies were handed out, which wasn't really always the best way to do it, because again, with the differences in karts, if you just got, there was one of the races, if you've seen the 2014 series, it might have been 2015 actually, there was one race in this real life racing series where I won the first 3 races and then I got a bad kart in the final race and I didn't win that one. So after winning all 3 races and almost getting maximum points, I never managed to get that first place trophy. Nowadays the trophies are handed out for whoever does better across the 2 races that we do. Obviously we do 2 slightly longer races rather than the 4 short races now. So yeah, it's really interesting to look back at, this was a breakthrough race for me where it was the first time I'd gotten a trophy. It was a second place trophy as well. And yeah, 10 years later, you don't realize how time flies. It's strange that it's been so long that 10 years ago I was doing this race with a completely different camera and in completely different situations, and doing you guys have never seen this, so it's been kind of nice to sort of go back through the past and look at some old footage, even though we're never going to be able to focus on more of it because the footage isn't too good. At least I've been able to include sort of some footage from even predates the 2014 series and the real life racing series starting on this channel. But back to the present, and this second race, obviously you start the next race where you finish the previous race. So I was starting in 17th and I lost a few positions straight away off the line. Didn't have a great acceleration with this kart, but it's got a decent top end, I noticed, so I was able to fight with it. And this is where the title of the video comes from, this race. Nothing much happens in the second half of the race, but this first half is quite action-packed. So already I've lost a lot of positions, as you can see, went down to 20th, but then gained 2 on the right-hand side there by people getting... And this is, again, what it's like down here. I need to start qualifying better like I used to back in the day, where I could be qualifying in at least the top 10 to sort of get out of all of this. But yeah, this is where I'm at and this is what I've got to deal with. And there's the first bump draft that you're going to see of many. And you might have noticed in the sort of the clips from 2013 that we just watched, I actually didn't notice it myself until I looked back on it a few times, and I saw that I was doing the same sort of thing back then as well. And it's crazy how some things just don't change. So yeah, that all I did there was I had a much better run out of the right-hander, and I chose the kart that was in the best position. And because I had that better straight line speed, I had that better run, I'd taken the corner a bit better, and there was quite a few karts in front that were sort of out of position. I just chose the kart that was going to be in the best position, hit him in the back, and we both end up making places for that. And that same thing happened there as well, as you just saw in the first corner. I went to the inside, gave him a little hit up the back, we both make a place. And that is basically what I end up doing for the majority of the first half of this race. And it's on the same guy as well. I just follow him through pretty much every single overtake that I make or that he makes. And most of the time I'm giving him a little boost so that he makes that overtake, and then I just follow him through, because when you're on the back end of someone, another kart can't cut in front of you because there's no space. So yeah, it's certainly a bump drafting my way forward in this one. And this is kind of where the sort of the racing instincts came back a little bit more than they have since I started up again with doing this in the last episode. When you're gone from it for so long, 2015 was the last time I really did this. It's nice to have races like this where you feel it again. You feel that sort of racing instinct, and you're doing the right things that make positions, and that's something that I've been doing in the last 2 races, the last 2 episodes, last 4 races. I've always been making places. I've never really been getting overtaken, so that's something to be happy about and thankful for, and I've still got some skills there. I just need to, I think, put myself in better positions for the start of these races so that I can start up higher basically and make positions in higher positions where it counts. Again, another little hit of the backside there, which again gave him the position that was kind of 50-50, and then I just followed him through. That puts me up into 13th, and the way it's looking, I'm kind of on for a top 10. We both seem to be catching the 2 in front, so very quickly I've gone from 20th place at the start of lap 1 to the end of lap 3, and I'm in 13th and looking at a top 10, and that's how quickly it can change. This is where I kind of again just push him along. I'm not gonna try for a position or anything. I just want to push him along for us both to get closer up to the guys in front, and that's exactly what happens. We're right in there and we're suddenly in a fight for a top 10. And now at this point I actually feel quick. I've seen what's gone on. I've made all these places very quickly. We're only on the 4th lap, and I feel like I should be able to make up these positions and get ahead of these 3 at least that are in front of me. It's all about how I'm going to do it, when I'm going to do it, and also I was starting to think how quickly I can do it, and it would be good to try and get through them as quickly as possible to see if I can, by the end of the race, make up even more places, because we're only early on. So yeah, I'm kind of, it's at the sort of the end of this lap where I kind of decide, okay, I need to start making some moves, and I'm not just gonna sit behind the same person for the entire way. You've got to make a decision at that point. When do you want to try to overtake the person who you've been pushing along because you think that you might have a better chance of going even further? So that's what I decide here. I get a decent enough run out of the final corner, but I was a little bit compromised, so I go back in the slipstream and get back sort of up the inside, and he gives me a bit of space, and he actually ends up giving me a hand gesture to say, you go. I think he recognised that I was quicker than him at that point, and the fact that I'd helped him get a number of positions probably helped it in my case as well. So yeah, he basically let me go once I was already up the inside. I think I would have got the move done anyway, but it made it a bit easier. And then it was about how quickly I could get in front of these 2. And obviously he's probably behind me as well, thinking he can make up some places and try to follow me through as well. That doesn't end up happening in terms of I don't get any bumps up the back or anything, at least I didn't feel it. But yeah, I got a nice little move up the inside there into the chicane. I gave a little bit of space on the inside of the chicane just so I didn't get hit, and that was up into 11th, so going very, very well immediately. And again, it's that same sort of thing. I decided that this is the moment where I needed to make these moves and overtake, and I'm making it happen, and I'm pretty happy that I'm actually being able to do that, because there's no guarantee that you're just suddenly going to be able to do all this again when it's been so long that I was racing at the front before. Again, here I sort of had a bit of a slipstream, but then we're fairly evenly matched towards the end of the straight, but because I had the inside, I just sort of stuck it up the inside, and that was up to 10th place, and there it is, top 10, from being in 20th place at one point, and even back in the last race from being in 22nd place, I'm now up into 10th. So it's been a nice sort of, again, kind of like it was in the last episode, a little bit of a comeback, but what I need to do is qualify a bit better and start a bit higher and not lose positions on the first lap like I have been doing. That's my main sort of focus for improvement right now. Now, when you sort of come out of the chicane here and you look over to the right hand side of the screen, you can see the sort of a pack of karts there who've just come out of the hairpin. They're all fighting for pretty much 3rd place. And then as we come on to the final lap of the race, you'll see how much closer I am to them. I was setting best lap after best lap after best lap in every single lap that I was doing, but because it had taken me so long to get up into 10th place, I was way too far behind, even though I'd caught up massively to this group, which again is a good thing and good looking to the future that I've got the pace to be able to do that. Ultimately, I was a little bit too far back, and I ended up finishing in 9th because one of the people in that pack ended up coming into the pits. I don't know whether he got a black flag or something, but ultimately it was a decent second race there as well. So that's pretty much it for this one. We'll see how we do in the next round in the next episode, but yeah, for this one, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're continuing to enjoy the series. Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments, and I'll see you next time.